Welcome into Clipboard Conversations. I'm John Folke. Very pleased to be joined by Hornets assistant coach Dutch Gaitley. As Dutch, we kind of start all of these by saying, how have you been doing? How have you been spending the hiatus? Are you healthy? Is your family healthy? How's everything going?
Doing good. Hope you're doing well, John. Family's healthy. My fiance and my dog live here in Charlotte, and then she has her family in Austin. I have my family in New York, and everybody's healthy. Thankfully, doing the social distancing and everything, but trying to get. I remember the first couple days when I didn't have a little routine. It was a little stir crazy, and after sitting down and mapping out what the routine was going to be, watching film, taking the dog for 5 or 6 walks, and then reading some books, and we've obviously gotten into a lot of shows. But once we got into our routine, it's gotten a little bit better. But there's definitely those first couple days when everything shut down, where it was like, oh wow. This is you go through, as you go through a routine. You know where you're going to be for 9 months in a row, and then once that's stopped, it's a little bit weird to get into. But I think we're handling as best we can.
It was. I think you're absolutely right that it was a little disorienting. Like at first you felt, okay, this is kind of nice, and then it's like, wait a minute. After 2 days, it's so disorienting when you're used to being here at a certain time, being at the airport at that. So how did you develop a routine? And was it in talking with the coaches and things like that to develop a routine, or did you come up with it on your own?
I think with the staff, having the work assigned to us from Coach Borrego, he's obviously done a great job of, leading us through this with Zoom calls. And, obviously we had the article that was on ESPN talking about old playoff games, which has been a lot of fun to watch. But doing that and then just, reading some new books, catching up with friends, try to call guys around the league, maybe steal some ideas from them, but just check in with their family, see how they're doing.
What are some of the books you've been dabbling in?
I actually got one right here. I'm a big, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of John Feinstein, Backroads of March. So he wrote a book. My dad gave it to me a long time ago. He wrote about the Big Five, which obviously being from Philadelphia, like I'm a big Five guy. And he also wrote about the Patriot League, the D1 conference that didn't have scholarships in like the early 90s and then eventually went to scholarships. I was originally committed to Lafayette, and that was a lot of it was from that book that he wrote, just reading about guys and reading how it was a great academic conference, but also really cool basketball school. And I had heard of some of the schools, so that was my original commitment to Lafayette, and that was a lot from this book. So I tried to, my fiance makes fun of me because I only try to read a chapter a day because I don't want to read it too quickly and then be done. So I try to, but it's funny when it's only a chapter is only 3 pages. I'm like, oh wow, I guess I'm done this chapter for the day. So a lot of that, and then got a bunch of books just piled up. Ron Norred he talks about a lot of books. So I got a lot in my notes that I got to read.
You brought up your family kind of huddled together in New York, and I know your mom, head coach at Fordham. Where were they at in their season when things came down? Were they in the tournament? Was their season already over?
They had just lost, I think. Wow, it's crazy. It's so long ago. They had just lost in the conference tournament, and I think they were preparing to get an NIT bid. So she gave the kids a couple of days off, and they were preparing for an NIT bid. So she was going on with the season. But it's funny you bring her up if you're ever bored, or she has a lot of interesting messages on Twitter right now. So my family's not her and my brother do a lot of videos on Twitter right now. She's got like a message for the day and everything. So they're trying to stay as busy as possible. Some of them are comical, some of them are cringeworthy, but they're definitely entertaining, to say the least.
Well, and your whole family is involved in basketball, right? Your dad's involved on your mom's staff, I believe.
He was. So years ago, growing up, he was on her staff. But so my one middle brother is a video intern for Miami Heat, so he's down in Miami right now. And then my littlest brother plays at Richmond, but he's in New York now. So yeah, the whole family. It's a little bit. We've never not been able to go to a basketball court or work out with our guys or work out with the team. So it's a little bit crazy, but we try to, we have FaceTime calls. We do some Zoom family trivia, which has been fun. So a lot of those things have kept us together.
Who wins in the Zoom family trivia?
Definitely not me, and it's from lack of trying. We might fidget the rules a little bit, maybe look on our phones a little bit just because we're very competitive. But there are we were very upset because there was the question, I think the question was, there was only one coach that has won 150 Division I games in Division I basketball, and there's only one coach that's done it, and we got it wrong, so we were very embarrassed. And I was even more embarrassed because after I heard the name, I realized that I had just read it in the John Feinstein book about 2 days earlier. So when I heard the name, I was very, very upset with myself.
So we got to set up some little quizzes, right? Reading comprehension for Dutch.
Yeah, seriously.
Paying attention.
Yeah, exactly. Am I really paying attention, or am I just hearing what shows on in the background?
You mentioned your fiance and your dog there in Charlotte. I know we've seen you guys out walking the dog quite a bit and getting your exercise outside. But how has it been just sort of preparing for a wedding during this time and trying to keep normal life in that regard moving forward?
Yeah, it's been interesting. We've had a lot of friends here in Charlotte. There's actually a friend who was supposed to have a wedding this weekend. It was it was quote unquote perfect because our season was probably going to be done and we would be able to go to the wedding. So they had to reschedule. I've had 2 or 3 friends reschedule, their wedding. And it's been tough, and we're ours is at the end of August right now. So we're sort of fingers crossed hoping that, things will get back to, normal, as they say. But, we're taking it day by day, trying to figure out. And, obviously we don't want to be selfish and put people in harm's way, but we also, we want to hope, and, we put a lot of work into it, obviously a lot of money into it and a lot of planning. So we're hoping that things happen, but we also want to keep, everybody's safety, at the forefront of our minds. So we've been thankfully, the registry presents have not stopped. So we've gotten a couple of those. So those are packed up in the guest room right now. So we're very thankful for people sending those. But no, it's definitely, the hotel's been great that we're, planning everything at, and we're scheduled to go to Austin. That's where she's from. So we're scheduled to go back there in a month or so, hopefully, and, plan some stuff out. So we're using that as sort of our barometer to see if we can actually go, make this happen. So, but it's definitely been interesting. It's an unfortunate time for everybody, but I think everybody is, understanding of, obviously more important things, like everybody's health comes first.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you think about my wife and I just went through this nearly 4 years ago now, and all the time you spend putting into it and planning, trying to get every little detail correct. And then something like this comes up, and all of a sudden all those little details maybe aren't as important as everything else. Yeah.
The what's going to be in the center of the table, and, what colors everybody going to wear. Like now you're like, all right, I just hope everything happens. I just hope for all of our friends and family to get together. So it's definitely been, a weird time, but we're hoping and trying to stay as positive as possible for sure.
Now, in the background, we've got your kitchen, and I know you've been dabbling in some baking. Give us the details here on what's cooking in Dutch's kitchen.
So I've joked with friends that I'm trying to get a bunch of guys to join in with me, and it would be Bros Who Bake. That's going to be my podcast. So I might take some tips from you, but it was just something. Like, obviously we had no idea how long this was going to last. So we were in the supermarket, and I've always been a fan, as a little kid, of funfetti cupcakes. So I saw those and I was like, oh, I'll make those. I got nothing but time. And then I had fun doing that. And then a couple of days later I was like, oh, I'll try this banana bread, and got rave reviews from that. But it's just been something to plan and have fun with. I've been joking with, some friends that, whenever we eventually do have kids, and it's going to be one of their birthdays, and they're going to walk in to school with their 50 cupcakes, and they're going to say, oh, did your mom make those? And be like, no, my dad had a back-to-back in Portland, and he got back at 2 a.m. and, he stayed up till 6 a.m. making me cupcakes. And they're like, wait, the 6'10" guy with the beard is making your funfetti cupcakes? So, no, but it's been a lot of fun. I'm a little bit annoyed that I think I baked my pumpkin bread a little bit too long, so it's a little dry. So I'm bouncing back this week with some new cookies. So fingers crossed I can step my game up.
Well, to join in the Brothers That Bake, I yesterday made trail mix cookies. It was my first go round with trail mix cookies, thinking it would be pretty easy, right? Just trail mix is a bunch of stuff thrown together. There were so many steps in toasting this and toasting that, and so I get everything together, get it all mixed up. And this is where baking lexicon is different from everyday lexicon.
Yes.
As I'm reading the directions, it says mix together and chill for 2 hours. So I mixed it together. I left it on the counter, and my wife came home, and she's like, "Oh, you didn't put it in the fridge." I was like, "No, it said to chill. It's been chilling on the counter for 2 hours."
That's great. That's awesome. I also try to do some. We alternate breakfasts in my fiance and I, and she, being from Texas, just stays real consistent with her breakfast tacos, and they're great, and I love them. But I try to dabble, and the other day we were doing something out of. I think I bit off more than I can chew because I tried to take something from Chrissy Teigen's cookbook, some like hash browns, and I think Maria knew before I did it that it was going to be a disaster. Because she was like, "Why don't we just buy the frozen ones?" I was like, "Oh no, I'll do it." And then 5 minutes into trying to slice the potato, I sliced a good part of my finger, right tip my finger off. So I told her I'm scarred now, literally and figuratively, from making hash browns. They will not be made. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it frozen. So I think I'll stick to the cooking's not my expertise. The baking's real in my wheelhouse. But if you're looking, I just downloaded the other day the Tasty app. They got a lot of recipes in there, and they got video that goes along with it. And then they have people chime in like the comments that says, hey, I did this a little bit different. So I downloaded something from there. So I'm going to try some recipes there. So I think hopefully I can follow some other people's directions.
Well, we are going to launch this Brothers Who Bake podcast because, we've got the Hornets Podcast Network, and we're always looking for content.
There you go. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, coaches who bake. We'll pass it around the league. See what other coaches are. I know that there's I've posted it to my Instagram, and friends around the league have been like, "Oh, you guys send me that recipe." So there's definitely some guys around that are dabbling. We'll see how good they turn out.
All right, I love it. I want to wrap up here just about your story. And you mentioned that your brother's in the video room in Miami, and that's where you got your start. Of course, head coach James Borrego got his start in the video room. And as you look across the league, there's so many coaches that started out in the video room. Why is starting in the video room such a great launching pad for a coaching career? And how does it prepare you for the next step, maybe to being player development, to being an assistant, to eventually being a head coach?
No, it's a great question. Obviously, there are a ton, and especially from the San Antonio video room where I was lucky enough to work at. It really is like a master's in basketball. The hours are long, but they don't even seem that they're very long because you're learning so much. I mean, the way I compared it, like my first year was like I was at a library walking through, and I was just grabbing as many books as possible, and I didn't have a second to read any of them. I just knew that, and I looked back at my desk, and I had a a book on pick and roll, a book on post defense, a book on post offense, and it just had never had time because there's so much going on. The season's so long, you have no idea how long it is. And then the summer hits, and you're like, okay, I got a little time. And I was fortunate enough that we won the championship my first year in San Antonio. So the season was, I sat there, I was like, this is easy. You make the championship your first year, it's going to be like this every year. But it was such an amazing time. And then you jump right into Summer League. And Summer League is really, we talk about it for the young guys that get drafted and the undrafted guys, but it's really good for the young coaches because you get thrust into roles that you've been able to sit back and watch the coaches do. But now you're there talking to the players. Hey, this is what we're going to do in the scout. This is what we want you to do in this drill. This is your running drills. So it really is. And the other part is you're around, at least in San Antonio, we had so many different minds in that room. I mean, my first year we had Will Hardy was our head video guy. He's front of the bench for San Antonio. Myself, you have Ben Selvin, who is Giannis's workout guy, and he's front of the bench. We also had Dave Akinyoye, who is behind the bench in OKC. I can go through the list of guys that I worked with, and you get there early in the morning. You're there for the coaches. Then you go on the court and you help out in drills, whether it be playing or you're helping the drill run. Then practice ends and you're helping the coaches. Well, then the coaches leave and you're sitting there saying, okay, well, I got to cut this game that's about to happen in 2 hours. So you have 2 hours to work out, but then you also get 2 hours to joke around with the guys in the room. And by joking around, it's, okay, what player do you like? All right, you like that guy? I like this guy. Let's argue it out for 25, 30 minutes. Let's provide clips of why I think this player is better than this player. So that in and of itself is you get to steal ideas. I mean, we did something in San Antonio with Will was where he would make us bring like an ATO to him, once a week and say, this is an ATO I saw Atlanta run or I saw so-and-so run. And then Will would say, okay, I like that. And he would take one, and maybe if you really liked it, he would give it to Pop. And, if you somehow found a play or helped draw up a play that eventually went to Coach Pop and he liked enough to put in the game, that's your whole entire life. You're like, that's the coolest thing in the world, that I was that half of percentage point was able to help our team possibly score one basket is like the coolest thing in the world. And the other part is being in the video room is you get to develop those relationships with players, because a lot of times, you hear these guys, this guy got drafted first round, 10th pick, and you're like, oh, I'm a little nervous to be around him. But working with them every single day, like these are normal people just like, everybody else. And you get to develop those relationships. I have relationships in San Antonio that I was joking around with. I sent a picture of Bryn Forbes. It was on Instagram, and sent it to him yesterday, and we joke around all the time. And he's, one of the favorite guys I ever worked with. And then, texted Marvin yesterday, just making sure he's okay. So you develop those relationships, and you get to learn, they're being pulled every which way from their family. They've got their agent. They probably have people that maybe they're helping back home, and just being able to be on the court with them and help them get better on the court, and then develop that relationship as friendship. That's something that helped me, especially now with my player development, working with the guys I worked with, developing those relationships. But it really is, you're just around so many people. It's funny that you brought up Coach Borrego, because one of the games we watched was the 2005 Game 5 Pistons Spurs game, playoff game. And I'm watching everything, and then I see like Coach Borrego sitting in the same seat that I was sitting in when I was a video guy. And it's just funny seeing, young JB give, Robert Horry hits a big time three, and JB gets like the nice fist pump and everything. But it's funny to see that's where he started out. And that's all of our goals, is hopefully to work our way up, to ideally to a head coaching position, but just trying to help our team as best we can. So it definitely, the video room, and that's why I encourage my one brother to get into it. It's like, it's a great experience, especially if you weren't able to play at the highest level. It's a great, experience to help out and learn. And that's the best thing, is I learned so much in my time. I learned so much in my time in San Antonio, and I've learned so much of my time in my 2 years with, this new staff in Charlotte, that it really is just an amazing experience. And, it being in that video room and working with those guys is something that I'll always cherish, because I learned so much in those couple of years.
Does watching film make you watch, like if you're just watching a game on television, do you watch it differently?
I got to like separate the two minds, because I tried to, I was watching a couple games, just watching a couple games, and it's interesting. It's like, oh, I'm trying to just watch it as a fan and like listen to, it's funny you bring that up, because when I'm like, if I'm working on a game as a video guy, I'm not really listening that much, because I'm like trying to knock out the work. But the other day we were watching Denver versus the Lakers, like when they had Powell and Bynum and everything. Mm-hmm. And during the game, they were doubling Bynum, the ball gets swung around, and Ron Artest takes a wide open three, like nobody within 10 feet of him. And Steve Kerr's doing the game, and Steve Kerr's like, I don't know why he's, to try to get in his rhythm, he should just take one step inside the three, shoot a nice 18-footer. And I worked with, his son was in the video room in San Antonio with us, and I'm like, I'm going to call him later and be like, your dad coached the greatest three-point shooting team of all time, and he's now and 10 years ago he was suggesting that Ron Artest had a wide open three and should take a long two. I'm like, that's just the 10 years has changed. He goes from taking the long two to Steph Curry, you can shoot it from half court. So it's funny how much the game has changed in that long. But yeah, it's definitely different. Watching the game as like a fan and trying to enjoy it, versus like doing the work and, locking in on what the coverages are, what team's doing, what you're trying to exploit. But it's fun now to sort of take a step back and be able to watch games as fan now.
Well, Dutch, we appreciate your time. Glad that you, your fiance, and your whole family are staying healthy. Best of luck with the continued wedding planning and the baking. We're going to check in again, because we need to follow up on that. But we thank you so much for taking some time and joining us this week.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
All right, that is Dutch Gaitley joining us on this week's episode of Clipboard Conversations.